The disappearance of the Protector Duration's flagship, the Protector, a ship that symbolized the might and unity of humanity across the galaxy. The crew, led by the steadfast Captain Darian Voss, was on a routine mission to patrol the outermost regions of Federation space, areas fraught with the unknown. Their last transmission had come from the edge of Federation territory, near the uncharted boundaries of the deep and mysterious wild space, a place that even the most daring explorers feared. In the message, Captain Voss reported detecting an anomaly, an unidentified vessel, one that did not match any known configuration. Its design was unlike anything seen before, sleek, dark, and almost organic in appearance, with strange markings that glowed faintly against the blackness of space. The ship was silent, not responding to hails or scans. Captain Voss had decided to move in and investigate, hoping to uncover more about the mysterious ship. It was a routine mission, or so it seemed. But that was the last anyone had heard from the Protector. As the Federation scrambled to make sense of the sudden silence, a massive search effort was initiated. Hundreds of ships, from destroyers to reconnaissance vessels, were dispatched across several star systems. They combed through the nearby regions, analyzing every asteroid field, every moon, every hidden corner of space, hoping to find a clue, a sign of the missing ship. It wasn't just the disappearance of a flagship, it was the disappearance of hope itself. The Protector wasn't just a ship, it was the embodiment of humanity's power, an unshakable symbol of their reach across the stars. Weeks turned into months, and still there was no sign of the Protector. The Federation had called in its best and brightest minds, offering rewards to anyone who could provide any insight or lead. In response, the most advanced fleets continued to search tirelessly. Yet, no matter how hard they tried, the vast emptiness of space swallowed all traces of the ship. No debris, no remains, nothing. It was as though the Protector had simply vanished from existence. The Federation, at first in denial, was forced to acknowledge that the flagship was lost, and with it the crew, including Captain Voss, was presumed dead. This announcement reverberated throughout the galaxy. News of the disappearance spread like wildfire, and citizens began to feel the tremors of doubt spreading through their hearts. If the Protector, the most advanced and protected ship humanity had ever built, could disappear without a trace, what hope was there for the Federation's future? The mysterious nature of the disappearance only deepened the suspicion. Rumors began to circulate that the ship had been attacked, perhaps by a previously unknown enemy. Some whispered of alien forces that had been lurking at the galaxy's edges, waiting for the right moment to strike. Others speculated that the disappearance was part of a conspiracy, some internal betrayal, perhaps a secret faction within the Federation, intent on taking power from the inside. No one knew for certain. The truth, it seemed, was locked away in the depths of space, never to be uncovered. In the wake of the disaster, the Federation's leadership was shaken. The loss of the Protector was more than just a strategic blow. It was a crisis of confidence. For centuries, the Federation had been the beacon of order in the galaxy, a shining example of human strength, unity, and technological prowess. Now, it was a shell of its former self, weakened by internal political struggles, corruption, and growing distrust between its various factions. As the Federation moved forward, they shifted their focus to salvaging what remained of their power. The search for answers stalled, and eventually, official investigations were abandoned. The people, once proud of their Federation, began to lose faith. With no answers, no closure, the void left by the Protector's disappearance loomed large. The future seemed uncertain, and whispers of a crumbling empire filled the air. However, far from the Federation's reach, far beyond the frontiers where no Federation fleet had ventured for years, humanity was not sitting idle. In the shadows of space, away from the Federation's crumbling walls, a new force was quietly gathering. It was a force built not on the power of the Federation, but on the ingenuity and resilience of humankind. These were the visionaries who believed that humanity's true potential was yet to be realized, beyond the constraints of the Federation's bureaucracy and the limitations of their failing systems. Among these pioneers was Captain Lyra Forsyth, a brilliant strategist and former officer in the Federation's military. Lyra had once served aboard the Protector, and though she was devastated by the ship's disappearance, she refused to let that tragedy define humanity's future. After the Federation's abandonment of the search, Lyra gathered a small group of like-minded individuals, engineers, scientists, and former soldiers, who shared her belief that humanity's future did not lie in the Federation's hands. In secret, they began constructing a fleet of their own, an untraceable fleet designed to defy the Federation's collapse and push humanity to the front lines of the galaxy once more. Their ships were smaller than the Federation's warships, but they were fast, agile, and equipped with cutting-edge technology that was years ahead of anything the Federation had. These ships were designed for one purpose: to prove that humanity was still capable of greatness. Lyra's vision was clear. Humanity could survive without the Federation. In fact, they might even thrive. And in the depths of space, in a hidden corner of the galaxy, they began to prepare for what would become the rise of a new human-led force, a force that would fight for their future, freed from the bureaucratic constraints of the Federation. While the Federation rotted from the inside, this new fleet, unseen and unheard of, was preparing to launch a campaign that would change the course of galactic history. The disappearance of the Protector might have shattered the Federation's spirit, but it also sparked something far more powerful: the birth of humanity's unyielding resolve to rise from the ashes of their own despair. And when the time came, they would take their place at the center of the galaxy, not as part of the old system, but as a new force, a force built on the values that had made them great: innovation, courage, and determination. The Federation's greatest fear was about to become a reality: the awakening of a new force. The Federation's once mighty halls were now filled with murmurs of dissent. Rumors of corruption ran rampant, as factionalism grew within the upper echelons of power. The disappearance of the Protector had dealt a blow to the Federation's prestige, but the cracks had been there long before that catastrophic event. It was no longer the proud beacon of order and justice it once was. Instead, it had become a weary empire, burdened by its own weight, its unity fraying at the edges. In the dark corners of this crumbling bureaucracy, Captain Lyra Forsyth and her band of renegades continued to prepare. They had no desire to reclaim the Federation's failing leadership. Their vision was far grander. It was the belief that humanity, freed from the stagnation and corruption of the Federation, could once again take its place among the stars, not as subjects to a decaying regime, but as pioneers of their own destiny. The shipyards on the fringes of the galaxy had become their sanctuary. Hidden from Federation eyes, they built with precision and secrecy. Lyra had been planning this moment for years, watching as the Federation grew more distant from its original ideals. The very system that was meant to safeguard human progress had become a prison for its people, and while the Federation searched the vast void for answers to the mystery of the Protector's disappearance, Lyra and her crew were preparing for something far more profound: the birth of a new era. Their fleet was not large, at least not yet, but it was powerful, made up of vessels unlike any the Federation had ever seen. Sleek and stealthy, the ships were designed to blend with the darkness of space, making them almost invisible to traditional Federation scanners. Every vessel was an engineering marvel, using a combination of human ingenuity and stolen alien technology to push the boundaries of what was possible. These were ships not meant for domination, but for exploration and survival, built with the intent to explore the unknown and expand humanity's reach beyond the Federation's decaying borders. In the heart of this hidden fleet, Lyra stood in front of the command console aboard the lead ship, the Phoenix. It was a symbol of everything she and her crew stood for: resilience, ingenuity, and a refusal to give up. The ship was a beautiful blend of human and alien designs, its sleek, dark hull made from materials stronger than any known to Federation engineers. Its advanced AI, an experimental model created by one of the fleet's lead scientists, hummed with life. analyzing every bit of data it was fed and constantly refining the ship's capabilities. Lyra's fingers brushed against the cool surface of the console as she stood in front of the massive holographic projection of their mission plan. "We're ready," she whispered to herself. Her voice was a quiet promise, not just to her crew, but to the legacy of the Protector, whose disappearance had set this entire chain of events into motion. With the Federation in disarray and no clear successor to the once great power, Lyra's group had decided it was time to act. Their mission was not one of conquest, but of exploration, an expedition to the unexplored reaches of space. The wild space that had once been the frontier of human expansion was now a place shrouded in mystery. The Federation had abandoned it long ago, deeming it too dangerous, too unpredictable. But Lyra knew that this was where humanity's future lay, not in the decaying remnants of the Federation, but in the unknown. "We will show them," Lyra muttered, as the stars outside the ship's window began to swirl into motion. Humanity's spirit is not dead. The first phase of their mission would take them to the very edge of Federation space, the last known position of the Protector before it vanished. There, they would uncover the truth behind its disappearance, and, if possible, reclaim the legacy of the ship that had once been the pride of the Federation. But even more importantly, Lyra knew that this journey would prove to the galaxy that humanity was capable of greatness, even without the Federation's crumbling bureaucracy. As the Phoenix accelerated toward the vast unknown, Lyra's mind raced with possibilities. What had happened to the Protector? Was it truly lost to the dark void of space, or had it fallen prey to something far more sinister? The reports from the Federation had been vague, almost dismissive, offering no real answers, only speculation. But Lyra had a different theory. The Protector had not simply disappeared, it had been taken, and whoever had taken it might hold the key to humanity's future. For weeks, the fleet moved deeper into wild space, away from the last remnants of Federation control. The silence of the void was palpable. No radio signals, no distress calls, only the hum of the ships as they made their way into the unknown. It was a feeling of freedom, but also one of isolation. For the first time in years, Lyra felt truly alone, and yet she couldn't shake the feeling that they were not the only ones out here. And then the unthinkable happened. One morning, as the fleet drifted through the uncharted systems, the AI aboard the Phoenix detected an anomaly, a massive energy signature far off in the distance. The readings were unlike anything the crew had encountered. It wasn't a simple asteroid field or an unstable star. This was something deliberate, something powerful. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. This was it, the moment she had been waiting for. "Prepare for emergency evasive maneuvers," she ordered, her voice firm with command. "All ships, maintain formation. We've found something." The fleet adjusted course, heading toward the source of the energy signature. It wasn't a ship, not like the Protector had been, but it was undeniably something of great significance. As the ships drew closer, the strange structure began to take shape. It was a massive station, sprawling across the empty void like some ancient monument. It wasn't Federation-made. It wasn't human. In fact, it wasn't anything that Lyra had ever seen before. For a brief moment, the crew of the Phoenix was caught in awe, but that quickly turned to a sense of urgency. This station, whatever it was, had been built with an advanced technology far beyond human capabilities. It wasn't a relic of some long-forgotten civilization. It was active, functional, and ready to be explored. This was the moment that would change everything. This station, this mysterious place, held the answers to the Protector's disappearance, and so much more. Lyra knew it, but she also knew that humanity's future would be determined by what they discovered here. Her gaze hardened, and she whispered one last thought to herself before she gave the order to move in. "We are not alone." The rise of humanity had begun, and the journey ahead was one that would reshape the galaxy forever. The secrets of the station. The vast expanse of wild space stretched out before Lyra as she stood at the command console, watching the mysterious station grow ever larger on the view screen. It loomed like a dark monolith, its surfaces shimmering with strange energy, pulsing in rhythm with some unseen force. This was no ordinary station. Every design, every curve of its architecture, hinted at a sophistication far beyond anything the Federation, or any known alien race, had ever managed to create. The Phoenix glided closer to the station, her engines humming with the controlled power that had been built into her. Lyra's hands tightened around the console. The other ships of the fleet followed in formation, their smaller forms dwarfed by the immensity of the station ahead. "Captain," said Dr. Darla Voss, the fleet's lead scientist, her voice crackling through the comms. "We're picking up strange readings from the station. It's unlike any technology we've encountered before. We need to proceed with caution." Lyra's eyes narrowed. Caution was a luxury they could not afford. They had traveled too far, ventured too deep into the unknown to turn back now. They needed answers. Humanity's future depended on it. "I'm aware, Dr. Voss," Lyra replied, her voice steady, but tinged with the same intensity that had driven her for years. "We're not turning back now. I want all ships in tight formation. We'll approach slowly, but we're going to make contact." The station's energy field shimmered again, this time with a faint pulse, almost as if it were alive, aware of their presence. As they approached, it became clear that the station wasn't just an inert structure. It was a hub of activity, its outer walls pulsating with a rhythm that seemed almost organic. Strange symbols, glowing faintly in a color that Lyra could not identify, moved across the surface like living patterns. "Keep your eyes peeled," Lyra ordered. "Something's not right here." Her instincts had always served her well, and now they screamed at her to be wary. She had no idea what they were walking into, but the Federation had left this place alone for a reason. The truth lay within, and yet Lyra couldn't shake the sense that they were being drawn into something far greater than themselves. As the Phoenix made its final approach to the station, the main airlock door opened slowly, a thick, metallic groan filling the silence of space. It was as though the station itself was inviting them in. Lyra swallowed hard, her mind racing with 1,000 possibilities. She had prepared for many scenarios, but none like this. What were they about to find? "Captain," Dr. Voss said, her voice tense, "we've detected what looks like an entry point. It's open, but there's a faint signal coming from inside. It's not human. It's not even of Federation origin." The hairs on the back of Lyra's neck stood on end. A signal. That could only mean one thing. Someone, or something, was already here. She glanced over her shoulder at her second-in-command, Commander Gagehawk, who stood ready for whatever may come. His eyes were sharp, his mind always calculating. If anyone could keep them alive in a dangerous situation, it was Gage. "Prepare boarding teams," Lyra ordered. "We're going in." With a soft hum, the Phoenix docked with the station, its airlock hissing as it sealed. The crew gathered in the briefing room, ready to step into the unknown. Lyra stood at the front, her face illuminated by the glow of the holographic map displayed before her. "Listen up," she said, her tone firm. "We don't know what we're walking into. We have no idea who, or what, is behind this station. But whatever it is, we're here to find answers. Humanity's future is in our hands. Stay sharp, stay focused, and whatever happens, we move as one." The crew nodded, their faces set with determination. They had followed Lyra into the unknown, and they trusted her. That trust, that unity, was the backbone of the fleet. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for something greater, for humanity's place in the galaxy. Lyra nodded to Gage, who opened a communications channel with the other ships in the fleet. "All teams are ready, Captain. We're locked and loaded." "Good," Lyra said, her heart pounding in her chest. "Let's move out." The boarding party moved swiftly, their feet silent on the metallic floor as they crossed the threshold into the station. The corridors inside were vast and seemingly endless, stretching off into the darkness. The walls, covered in the same strange symbols that had appeared on the outer surface, hummed with energy, creating an eerie, otherworldly atmosphere. Lyra's breath caught in her throat as she looked around. This was no mere station. This was a relic, a monument to something far older and more advanced than anything humanity had ever encountered. "We're not alone," Gage said quietly, his voice tight with tension. Lyra nodded in agreement. The silence was oppressive, the air thick with anticipation. It was clear that the station had been abandoned for some time. But by whom? And why? The mysteries began to unfold with every step, and the further they ventured, the more it became apparent that this place held secrets not just about the Protector, but about the galaxy itself. They moved deeper into the station, the eerie silence broken only by the soft hum of the energy fields. As they rounded a corner, the flickering of lights illuminated a massive central chamber, a room so vast that its true scale seemed impossible to comprehend. The walls were lined with unfamiliar technology, consoles and screens that pulsed with life, displaying data that Lyra could not even begin to understand. And at the center of the room, suspended in a strange, glowing containment field, was a figure. It was humanoid in shape, but its features were far from human. Its skin was translucent, with veins of shimmering silver running beneath the surface. Its eyes were black and empty, yet they glowed with an intensity that made Lyra's heart race. "This is it," Gage whispered, his voice full of awe and fear. "This is what the Protector was looking for." Lyra stepped forward, her pulse quickening. The figure before them seemed to be a key, an answer to everything that had happened. Whoever, or whatever, had created this station, they had left something important behind. Something powerful. "We need to find out who they were," Lyra said, her voice steady, yet filled with wonder, "and why they've been hidden away in this corner of the galaxy." But as Lyra took another step closer to the figure, a sudden, violent pulse of energy shot through the station. The ground shook beneath their feet, and the air around them rippled with force. The containment field flickered, and the figure's eyes snapped open. "Captain," Gage shouted, his voice filled with panic, "we need to get out of here. It's waking up." Lyra's mind raced, but she knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning. The Federation had failed. The galaxy had turned its back on humanity. But here, in the depths of wild space, Lyra and her crew had discovered something that would change the fate of the universe forever. The rise of humanity wasn't just about reclaiming the stars. It was about discovering the secrets that lay beyond them. And as the figure in front of them slowly began to stir, Lyra realized that the greatest challenges were still ahead. The awakening. The figure in the containment field began to stir. Lyra's eyes widened, her breath catching in her throat. The eerie silence that had gripped the station for so long seemed to shatter, replaced by an unsettling hum that reverberated through the very walls. The ground beneath their feet trembled with the force of the energy emanating from the figure, and Lyra instinctively stepped back, signaling to her crew to stay alert. "What the hell is that thing?" Gage muttered, his hand hovering near his weapon, but he didn't draw it just yet. Instead, he stared at the figure with a mixture of awe and dread. Lyra swallowed, unable to tear her gaze away from the figure's glowing eyes. There was something undeniably alien about it. Its translucent skin, its otherworldly presence. The very fact that it was alive after millennia, encased in a containment field, suggested a level of technological advancement that far surpassed anything humanity had ever dreamed of. The containment field flickered again, crackling with energy. The figure's eyes, black as the void, locked onto Lyra's. They were not just empty, hollow eyes. They seemed to pulse with an intelligence that sent a chill down her spine. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The room felt smaller, the air thicker, and Lyra could hear her heartbeat hammering in her ears. But then the figure moved, its limbs twitching as if it were waking from a long slumber. Slowly, agonizingly slow, it lifted one arm, and the field surrounding it began to dissolve, as if recognizing the figure's command. "Move," Lyra barked, and her team sprang into action, weapons raised, eyes scanning for any sign of aggression. But the figure did nothing but gaze at them, its eyes never leaving Lyra. "Hold your fire," Lyra commanded, raising her hand. The tension in the room was palpable, but she knew this moment was critical. They had no idea what they were dealing with, and a single wrong move could destroy everything. The figure's mouth, if it could even be called that, opened, and for the first time, it made a sound. It wasn't speech, but a deep, rumbling vibration that resonated within their very bones. Lyra didn't understand the language, but she could feel the weight of it, like an ancient echo reverberating through the corridors of time. "Captain," Dr. Voss said from behind her, her voice trembling. It's communicating." Lyra nodded, her eyes fixed on the figure as it continued to hover within its now dissipating energy field. The vibrations intensified, the air shimmering with the power of whatever the creature was attempting to convey. Then, as quickly as it had started, the vibrations stopped. Silence enveloped the room once more. The figure's gaze remained fixed on Lyra, its alien eyes narrowing slightly, almost in recognition. Slowly, it raised its arm fully, and the space around them seemed to bend with an unnatural energy. Lyra could feel it in her very bones. This was a being of unimaginable power. Then, the creature spoke. The sound was unlike anything Lyra had ever heard before, unnerving, alien, and yet strangely familiar. She didn't understand the words, but the tone conveyed a sense of urgency, of a warning. Something had happened here, something that could change everything. "We need to find a way to understand it," Lyra said, more to herself than to anyone else. She stepped forward cautiously, her instincts telling her to be ready for anything. "Do you have any tools for translating, Dr. Voss?" "Working on it, Captain," Voss responded quickly, typing furiously into her datapad. "The language is alien, but there's a pattern. I think we can get something from it." Lyra kept her focus on the creature, watching every subtle movement. Her mind raced, trying to piece together the fragments of understanding that were beginning to form. The Federation had long suspected that there were other forces at play in the universe, forces beyond their comprehension. But this was something else entirely. Just as she was about to ask Dr. Voss for an update, the creature's gaze shifted. It looked past Lyra, to the rest of the team. Its eyes swept across them, lingering on each member of the crew for a moment longer than necessary. Then, it turned back to Lyra, as if it had made some kind of decision. Without warning, it stepped forward, its movements fluid but unnervingly precise. Lyra instinctively took a step back, but the creature's hand reached out, not with aggression, but with purpose. It gestured for Lyra to come closer, its finger pointing toward a strange console embedded in the wall. "Captain." Gage's voice was full of uncertainty, but Lyra could sense the same curiosity and urgency in him that she felt. "I'm going," she said, her voice steady, her body moving toward the console with a purpose. Whatever this creature wanted, she needed to understand it. For her crew, for humanity. As she approached the console, her hand hovered over the interface. The symbols on the surface of the console were completely alien, shifting and changing as if alive. A strange, iridescent light flickered from the console, and for a moment, Lyra hesitated. But then the creature's gaze bore down on her, urging her forward. With a deep breath, she pressed her hand against the surface of the console. In that instant, a torrent of information flooded into her mind. Images, sounds, and words that made no sense at first. But then the fragments began to coalesce, forming a coherent image. A message. The creature had shared something with her, something beyond language. The Federation had been wrong to think this station was simply an abandoned relic. It had been a prison, a containment field, and the being within it was a prisoner, yes, but not of this place. It had been exiled here, abandoned by its own kind. "Dr. Voss, are you seeing this?" Lyra's voice was strained as she tried to make sense of the overwhelming flood of information. This isn't just a station. This is a prison. A prison for something far more powerful than us. Voss was silent for a moment as she processed the data. Yes, Captain. I think you're right. This technology, it's designed to contain something or someone. This creature might be a prisoner of war or an exile. There's a deeper history here. Lyra's mind raced, piecing the information together. The Federation had been searching for the Protector, the ship that had disappeared years ago. But what if the disappearance wasn't a coincidence? What if it had stumbled upon this station, this prison, and had learned the truth about the galaxy's ancient powers? And what if this creature, this being, held the key to humanity's future? Lyra turned back to face the creature. Its black eyes seemed to pierce her soul, as if it were silently begging her to understand. She had to make a decision. The fate of the galaxy, of humanity, rested in her hands. "Are you ready for this?" Lyra whispered to herself. "Because once we open this door, there's the choice." The room felt smaller now. Lyra's mind buzzed with the overwhelming rush of information from the creature's shared memory. Its warning, its story, and most chilling of all, the fate of its people. Humanity had no idea what kind of forces it was dealing with, no understanding of the gravity of the situation they had walked into. Every instinct in Lyra screamed to walk away, to return to the safety of the Federation's walls, to leave this alien power contained, hidden, and forgotten. But another part of her, something deeper, more primal, urged her to press forward, to uncover the truth no matter the cost. She turned to face her crew, all of them standing motionless, weapons lowered but hands still hovering, as though they might need them at any moment. Gage stood closest, his face a mixture of anxiety and curiosity. He had followed her through countless missions, through danger and uncertainty, but this was different. This was unknown. "Captain," he said, his voice low, almost hesitant. "You're not seriously considering letting it out, are you?" Lyra didn't immediately answer, her eyes flicking back to the figure in the center of the room. The creature's gaze never wavered from her, and there was something almost pleading in those dark eyes, as if it knew she was the key to its freedom, to its escape from the prison that had held it for millennia. "I don't know what we're dealing with here, Gage," Lyra admitted, her voice shaking slightly. She gripped the edge of the console harder, her knuckles whitening as she tried to hold herself together. "But if we don't understand this being, this thing, we might be opening Pandora's box, and the Federation is not ready for that." The rest of the crew stood in tense silence, watching her every move. Dr. Voss, who had been silently processing the data, now spoke up, her voice steady but filled with an unsettling realization. "Captain, what if it's not just a prisoner? What if it's a warning? What if we found something that's been kept hidden for a reason?" Lyra looked at Voss, her eyes narrowing. "What do you mean?" Voss took a slow breath before responding. "What if this creature is part of something much larger than us? Something ancient, something powerful. The Federation's records, they don't cover everything. There are whispers, legends, the kind of things they don't want people to know." She hesitated for a moment, as if weighing her next words carefully. "This being might be the key to unlocking a truth the galaxy isn't ready for." Lyra considered Voss's words. Could this creature be the link to something far older, far darker than they could imagine? A threat beyond their understanding? Or was it truly a victim of forces far more advanced and capable than anything humanity had faced before? The creature's body shifted once more, its energy crackling as it hovered closer to Lyra. The glow from the containment field had faded completely, and now there was only the steady hum of the station's ancient machinery. Lyra stepped back, instinctively, as the creature's hand extended toward her, slow, deliberate, but not threatening. Its otherworldly energy filled the air with a palpable force, as if testing her, sensing her hesitation. For a long moment, Lyra stood frozen. She could feel the weight of the choice pressing down on her chest. The creature's eyes bore into her, as if it could see through the facade of her military resolve and into the heart of her deepest fears. "What do you want from us?" Lyra whispered, her voice trembling, her breath shallow. The creature responded, its voice not in words, but in a deep, resonant hum that reverberated through her very bones. Images flashed in her mind, visions of a vast, dying world, destroyed by war and conflict, the ruins of civilizations scattered across the cosmos. She saw the creature's people, its kind, fighting to survive against an enemy that had hunted them to the edges of the galaxy. She saw their desperation, their determination to survive, and their eventual fall. And she saw their exile, this creature's exile, sent to this prison to prevent their return. Not enemy, but ally. The creature's voice reverberated in her mind, its words more of a thought than a sound. Prevent. Save. You must help. Lyra's eyes widened. Help. Save. But from what? She felt the weight of the creature's plea, its desperation. It wasn't just trying to escape, it was trying to prevent something. But what could it be? And why her? Why had it chosen her? "Captain, we need to make a decision now," Gage said, his voice urgent. "We can't stay here forever. We don't know what this thing can do. It could be a threat, or it could be a chance for us to unlock powers we don't understand. Either way, we can't wait forever." Lyra turned to face him, feeling the pressure of the crew's eyes on her, waiting for her lead. The fate of the Federation, of humanity, and of this mysterious creature rested in her hands. And she could feel the weight of that decision, pressing down on her like the entire weight of the universe. "If we let it out," Lyra said, her voice steady, though her heart raced in her chest, "we may be taking on a responsibility we're not ready for. We could be opening a door to something humanity isn't prepared for. But if we leave it here, we might be condemning both it and us. The galaxy may already be facing something worse than we know." She turned back to the creature. Its energy pulsed, glowing brighter as it seemed to sense the decision coming. And in that moment, she realized, this wasn't just about the creature. It wasn't just about its past or its imprisonment. It was about the future of everyone. "Captain, I trust you," Gage said quietly, his voice unwavering despite the tension that clung to the air. Lyra turned back to him, her eyes locking onto his. She saw the trust in his gaze, in the way the entire crew stood behind her, ready to follow her lead no matter the cost. It wasn't just her fate that was at stake. It was theirs as well. With a deep breath, Lyra made her choice. She reached forward, her hand touching the console once again. The light from the creature flared brighter, filling the room with an almost blinding intensity. The hum of the station increased, vibrating through her body. The creature's eyes locked onto hers one last time, and in that moment, Lyra knew she wasn't just releasing a prisoner. She was awakening something far beyond her comprehension. The light reached its zenith, and with a final, deafening pulse, the station's ancient machinery roared to life. The creature's energy coalesced, and in an instant, the room was flooded with light. And then there was only silence. The figure was gone. Lyra staggered back, blinking against the afterimage of the blinding light. Her heart raced in her chest as she tried to process what had just happened. But before she could speak, the station's deep hum grew louder, the entire structure shaking as though something ancient, something enormous, was awakening. They hadn't just released the creature, they had unleashed something far greater. And the galaxy would never be the same again.